30 seconds. Yeah, you can. They already did. Oh, it's okay. We still got 15 seconds. 10 seconds. It's almost like a launch. Yeah, I know. That's fine. Okay, everybody ready?
Yep.
I'm going to kick things off today. Just to kind of give an update on 211 and the helpline. We had 505 calls yesterday. 182 of those were people that were volunteering to help, and we had 211 people that still need help. So there's a need for volunteers. Specifically, we're looking for people that have chainsaws, trucks, and trailers. If you're interested in volunteering, you don't need to call. You can just go right to the Volunteer Reception Center, which is 1000 Northwest Avenue. They're open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. today, and then tomorrow 8 a.m. to noon, so that's Saturday. So that's probably the biggest thing. We're still looking for volunteers. If people need help, we want them to call 211. They can get on that list, and then we can pair them up with some volunteers. The other part, Red Cross has its shelter open, and it'll be open through the weekend. Essentially, we're looking at for people that are impacted by either the storm or the flooding that's happening. Right now, they have 3 guests that are there, but we're anticipating some more, especially from people outside of Sioux Falls that are impacted with the flooding. I think that's all I have for right now. I'll turn it over to Mark Cotter.
Thank you, Sam. Mark Cotter. I'm the Director of Public Works. I'll give you an update on a number of the activities that are underway. First, the street debris pickup operations. We've got a graphic here that yesterday we shared with you the limits. It starts at 12th Street to the north, 85th Street to the south, Louise Avenue to the west, and we stretched the east boundary from Cliff over to southeastern. So we essentially have about 20 zones. As of this morning, we've been about 50% through those areas. There are some of those areas that still have a lot of debris in them. There are some that have very minimal. So we're making good progress, and we'll continue to keep you updated on how that goes. We also made an infographic that's off to the side to really clarify the work that the city is undertaking and the work that we'll ask the private properties to undertake. And so the first picture that's off to the left really identifies the street, or what we call the right-of-way, which involves both sidewalks and the roadway. And essentially, if you look at the next graphic over, if there's a street tree that is between the sidewalk and the back of curb that falls over, that's a tree or a large limb that we're going to come and pick up. We also, if you look at the one that's half colored in blue and half colored in red, that with a dotted line near the sidewalk, that would be on private property. But if it falls into the public right-of-way, we're going to essentially, we've instructed our crews, cut that tree basically at the property line and remove that's fallen into the public right-of-way. We've asked people to do not stack up debris from private property into the right-of-way. There's a number of resources through 211 that if you don't have the resources to take them to one of the now 4 free drop-off locations in or near Sioux Falls, there's just mobilize that 211 volunteer efforts. We've really heard from a number of just individuals, but also companies that want to step in and assist. It goes without saying, there's a lot of activity that's happening in the right-of-way. We know private property owners are working there, but also our street debris cleanup crews trying to do this as safely and efficiently as possible. Ask the traveling public to still not drive in those areas. The less vehicles that we can have in those areas, the better. The public drop-off sites, if you've been out there, are just really working really well. Out of the 2 that the city has had, over 5,000 vehicles have already been through, and we're about 60 hours into this recovery effort. They're going to remain open. The mayor did ask yesterday, is it possible for us to expand them, maximize daylight hours to go from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And so we did expand those hours. So the city drop-off sites will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we're going to run those until we see any change that would need to adjust those hours. Right now, we are planning to have them open through September. We know that there's been a substantial amount of debris removed already from the street right-of-way and private properties, but we know gearing up for this weekend, there's going to be a lot of traffic out there. So we've really tried to maximize and keep those drop-off sites very functional. Mueller Pallet's a local company that does a lot of work in the wood waste arena. They've got 2 locations that are on our interactive map. If you go to that, one is south of town that a lot of people have used, and then just recently in the last year, they've opened up a second location on the west side of town over near the town of Ellis. So trying to find your closest location. All 4 of them are free to the public. Mueller Pallet does have slightly different hours than what we have, and so check that those hours. Today, just if you want to get an up close and personal look at some of the work that's happening at those sites for the media, we are going to have an infield press meet that's going to happen at 2 o'clock. Donnie Kuiper, our landfill manager, will conduct that press conference, and that'll be at our Street Division campus location near Chambers and Cliff Avenue. So take that in if you will. You'll see some grinding operations happening to really significantly reduce the volume of this material, and it's also being hauled off as we grind it. Any mixed debris that would have anything other than trees in it, again, we want that mixed debris to go directly to the landfill. If it's also free to dump at the landfill if it is storm debris. And then, as always, we continue to evaluate the city, looking at impacted areas, and we'll continue to adjust our debris management policy accordingly. So, next up is Andy Berg. He'll give you a sense of activities that are happening with the high flows on the rivers. Thanks.
Andy Berg, Stormwater Manager, City of Sioux Falls Public Works. As Mark said, the river flows are high. Skunk Creek, currently we're at about 7,500 CFS with a gauge height of 13.4. The charts are showing that river level is cresting. It has not started coming down yet, but looks to be topping off, so we don't anticipate additional rises in the river levels as it's coming in from Skunk Creek. And as most of you know, Skunk Creek is the primary feed for the Big Sioux River as it flows through the south part of town. So the areas such as 41st Street, where we have a closure right now from Cliff to Phillips Avenue, that is primarily Skunk Creek flows. So as we see those start dropping, hopefully this afternoon into the evening, we will be continually watching that and opening that road up as soon as we're able to do so. Big Sioux River, the flows at the Del Rapids gauge are exceeding record levels up there. Record previously was 16.5, and the gauge height right now I believe is 16.6, 16.7. So record levels up there, a lot of impacts north of town. The flows as they're coming into the city on the Big Sioux are being diverted around town through our diversion channel. Those flows are contained in our levee system. We are actively monitoring our levee system as these flows go through and taking any actions necessary. The diversion dam itself, we will start feeding water through that diversion dam today as Skunk Creek flows recedes, as the path around the town has capacity to do so. As they're cresting, we don't expect any additional impacts in town. As you've heard, though, there are a lot of road closures in the region around town, so certainly be aware of those as you're traveling. Next up is Kelby Miris with the Parks Department.
Good morning. I'm Kelby Maris, Park Operations Manager for the City of Sioux Falls Parks and Recreation Department. With these increased river levels, multiple parks along Skunk Creek and the Big Sioux River, and sections of the bike trail system are being inundated with floodwaters. Some of the parks that are closed include Legacy Park, Yankton Trail Park, Spencer Park, Tut Hill Park, Pasley Park, Rotary Park, and Cherry Rock Park. And we are seeing bike trail floodwaters from Legacy Park all the way downstream to Falls Park. Definitely ask that people please respect the barricades and stay out of the flooded areas within the park system and bike trails. And as the floodwaters recede and the flood debris is cleaned up, park crews will be removing those barricades as the parks become open. Parks Department crews also continue to support the tornado cleanup efforts, not only working in the city streets, but also clearing debris throughout the impacted parks as well. Our 4 forestry crews are addressing street trees that have caused property damage, especially in the most heavily impacted areas. And at this time, I will turn it over to Corey Schroeder with Team Rubicon.
Could you list the parks that are closed again?
Sure. Legacy, Yankton Trail, Spencer, Tut Hill, Pasley, Rotary, and Cherry Rock.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Corey Schroeder with Team Rubicon. I'm the point of contact here on scene in the South Dakota State Admin. Our leadership team has arrived in Sioux Falls today to kind of gather some intel and recon of the area to see how we can help out the residents of Sioux Falls to this tornado response. Our teams of certified chainsaw operators and some other volunteers are going to be arriving later today, and we will begin operations Saturday. We're expected to last however long it takes to help clean up and help the local residents, but we'll probably be here for six days through the remainder of the week. Work orders are being coordinated through the 211 Helpline Center, so if there are any homeowners that are needing assistance in debris removal on their property, just a reminder to please call down there. They're getting together those damage requests and assessments for us, and we are going through with those. Other than that, we're happy to be here to help out the city of Sioux Falls and the residents of Sioux Falls, as well as the Minnehaha County. Other than that, I'll turn it over to Jason Gearman, Minnehaha County Emergency Manager. Thank you.
Jason Gearman, Minnehaha County Emergency Management. As you heard earlier, Del Rapids is receiving record water flows right now, and obviously that's coming south. Just before I walked in here, I was in contact with Renner. There are some issues in Renner, but not to the extent yet, so it just hasn't quite hit the Renner area, but we're expecting that later today. Some concerns we've had is obviously all those roads north of town, you're not going to get east and west of the Big Sioux River. So we just suggest people stay away from those areas. And again, just before I stepped in, there's some concerns because of I-90 westbound. So a lot of people are taking the Humboldt exit and heading north. Now, that's where all the water's coming from, is north. So Madison's having issues, but if you head west from Highway 19, you're gonna run into Montrose, and Montrose has obviously been evacuated. So we're having some problems there with semis headed that direction. So if you're traveling north out of the Sioux Falls area, don't go west. And you need to go north, you probably should take I-29, because that's basically the only road you're gonna get north if you're heading to Brookings or that area. We're expecting the waters to stay fairly high through Sunday, maybe into Monday. And then they'll decrease as such, as long as the weather stays stable. And from the forecast that we've had, I think it's supposed to at this point. Again, we reiterate, we've done a couple water rescues in Del Rapids and north of Sioux Falls, and it's generally just people doing stupid things that they shouldn't be doing. So please stay away from the running water. We're running out of barricades. If there's water running over the road, don't drive through it. I don't know how many times we got to say this, but people continue to do it. If you have any questions for me specifically, I can answer them now, or if there's something specific for these guys, we'll pull them up as necessary.
I have a question, sorry. Did Montrose close down yesterday then?
Yeah, they evacuated part of the town yesterday. Barry?
Expect any evacuations in Sioux Falls?
That'd be a question for them, but not that I'm seeing. There's about 7 families displaced in Del Rapids right now, and we're deciding what to do with them. And I think there's a couple people that had stayed at the Red Cross shelter, and again, that is open through the weekend. All right, any questions for anybody else?
I wanted to ask about, shifting a little bit to the tornado, with injuries. I was wondering if, the city or anyone else has determined the extent of injuries suffered in the tornado. We've heard from a couple of people who have, had to go to the hospital for spinal fusion, head injuries. Just wondering if the city has calculated the number of those.
I'm not aware of that, but I'll let Sam comment on that.
No. That's the short answer for you. That's something we haven't got around to getting that information of the number of people that are injured or impacted. Certainly, once things kind of calm down, we get things settled down, we can hopefully work with the hospitals and see if we can get a number of that, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get an accurate number.
Okay, just because there was, originally they said there were no serious injuries, and it's like, how do you define what is serious?
Yeah, right. I mean, that was just the information that we had received at the time. A lot of that is based off the information that was coming through the dispatchers. And so if people have some injuries, what maybe at the time seemed to be a minor injury and went to a hospital on their own, we're probably not going to find out that information, especially if it turns out to be a serious injury later on. But I don't know if we're going to be able to get an accurate number, but we can certainly look into that to see if we can put something together.
I'm wondering about the Latta neighborhood and some of the areas that flooded earlier this year. What's going to be happening there? What's anticipated? If they'll be impacted at all?
The lot of neighborhoods and area we've been watching, obviously with the spring flooding we had down there. The Skunk Creek flows that I mentioned have basically flattened off, peaked. In the Lotta area, we have not seen any flooding of structures or anything down there. The water is backing up into some of our storm sewers, but no impacts, no road closures, no impacts to structures at this time. And with the expected capping of that peak flow and the recession of those flows, don't expect any impacts down there.
And so no sandbags in Sioux Falls right now needed, or?
There are not any that we've placed for critical infrastructure that haven't already been there from the March event. Some of our lift stations, we left them in place, so they're still there. The water levels, to my knowledge, have not reached those, but they're there should the need arise. And, there are maybe some private folks that have put some out, but that's all I'm aware of.
Is the city going to be doing any sandbagging operations? Or?
There's no plan for any infrastructure additionally needed to be sandbagged with the event with the current river forecasting.
Any other questions? Okay, just to let everybody know, the plan at this point is the next briefing would be on Monday morning. We're monitoring things basically closely and kind of play it by ear, but we're basically, if there's any new updates, we're going to push those out over social media. If things change dramatically, then we would call a press conference over the weekend, but at this point, we're anticipating the next briefing would be Monday morning. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.